Hello, today is September 2nd in the year 2020. We're going to begin a new study today. It is somewhat timely, especially given the way people are talking, that we perhaps cover this. It also is something that I promised I would not do, that I was not going to do it, and if I did it, I would do it in person. I would not do it on a recording. I've decided to do it on a recording. That's right. Today, and probably for at least one more, if not two or three sessions, we're going to talk about the book of Revelation. I feel like someone should say, dun, 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 lightning off in the distance. So, let me tell you a little bit about my relationship with this book. I grew up in the 80s in an extremely conservative Baptist church that was on the edge of rural and suburbs. Okay. So the older people there, when they built their houses, it was more rural. And by my time, it was kind of more suburban. But it was just, you didn't have to go too far past cow pastures. All right. Southern Baptist. And I'm not sure about other places, but in the South, in the late 80s in particular, mid to late 80s, everybody was obsessed with the end of the world. And everything was related to Revelation. It was constant. We read books like Hal Lindsey's The Late Great Planet Earth, and when his predictions turned out to be wrong, we read 88 Reasons in 88. Everything was about Revelation. The vast scope of theological differences was whether you were pre-mill pre-trib or pre-mill post-trib. And honestly, I got enough of it. And, I was a kid. I was right there in it. I grew up a little bit. Went to college, got a degree in religion, sociology, got a master's degree in divinity. And by that point, I was sick of it. I didn't care anymore. I understood now that there were different ways of looking at the book of Revelation. And notice it is Revelation, not Revelations. And looking at this book, and I decided it really had no relevance on my Christian life. So I was going to ignore it. But of course, it is the most requested book. Whenever I would say, well, what do people want to talk about? You had two responses. People would say, I want to talk about Revelation. And the other group of people would say, anything but Revelation. For they, like me, had grown sick of it. But then, about 10, 15 years ago, I was preparing to teach a New Testament class, had to cover Revelation. Um, spent a lot of time on authorship and reception by the early church and things like that. But one of the things I read struck me, and I started doing some more research, and I looked at it a little bit closer, and I figured it out. And I'm going to tell you the secret of understanding Revelation, the truth about Revelation. But you're going to have to pay attention. First thing we need to do is we need context for this book. You cannot understand it without context. It really doesn't work unless you have an idea of what's going on. First thing we need to know is that Revelation, which the word is apocalypse, this is not the only example of this kind of thing. It's not even the only example of this kind of thing in the Bible. There are multiple examples in the Old and New Testament. Daniel 7 through 12, probably the next most famous to Revelation, but Mark 13, Matthew 24 and 25, Luke 21, all fit into the category of apocalyptic literature. Isaiah 24, 27, 33, 34, 35. Jeremiah, portions of it, a couple of chapters of Ezekiel, Joel, Zechariah, lots of them. But here's something even more important. Apocalyptic literature is not solely the domain of Jews and Christians. When this book was written, and I'll look over the side because my Bible is open to Revelation right there. When this book was written, there were lots and lots of these books. There is a huge list. This is just, in fact, a short one of books that you can actually find and read on your own. The Ascension of Isaiah, the Apocalypse of Abraham, the Apocalypse of Adam, the Apocalypse of Baruch, both Greek and Syriac versions, respectively. 2 Apocalypses of Daniel, the Apocalypse of Elijah, the Apocalypse of Ezra, Greek version. Gabriel's Revelation, the Apocalypse of Lamech, the Apocalypse of Metatron, the Apocalypse of Moses, the Apocalypse of Shadrach, the Apocalypse of Zephaniah, the Apocalypse of Zerubbabel, the Aramaic Apocalypse, 1st Enoch, 2nd Enoch, the War Scroll of the Qumran, and nominally Christian ones include the First Apocalypse of James, the Second Apocalypse of James, the Apocalypse of Gaius, the Apocalypse of Methodius, the Apocalypse of Paul, the Apocalypse of Paul Coptic version, the Apocalypse of Peter, the Apocalypse of Peter Gnostic version, the Apocalypse of Samuel, the Apocalypse of Stephen, the Apocalypse of Thomas, and the Apocalypse of the Seven Heavens. A brief list. So hopefully, me using that list as a bit of a stick to beat into your head the idea that there were a lot of these. This was really common. It was, the technical term, a genre of literature. A genre or style of literature includes many expected things. Typically, We list these as about 5 of them, although different lists break this down in different ways if you do some studying on it. First, the work claims to be a secret revealed to a prophet who is usually some famous figure of the tradition. Moses, Enoch, big popular ones, Adam, Daniel, in some cases angels, but basically famous figure, a secret revealed to this person. 2, uh, it is written in the form of a dream, a vision, or a transportation to heaven, or some combination of all of them. In Revelation, we have transportation to heaven. In the book of Daniel, we have dreams. 3, the revelation is guided by some heavenly figure. Typically, this is an angel. It could be somebody else. In case of Revelation, it's an angel. This is and behold, I saw an angel, and the angel showed me certain things. We will look at one of the main passages on that during this study. 4th, and these last 2 are the really obvious ones. 4th, the revelation is not self-explanatory. It is full of code, mythic imagery, cosmic events, numerology, signs and symbols that speak often to a secret group or an inner circle. Something that in the written text is not explained, but the reader is supposed to understand. And 5th, there is a specific view of history. Namely, the current world is bad. It is evil. It is getting worse. God will intervene in history. Once God has intervened in history, the new age that follows will be good. It will be characterized by good people and good things. It is a very deterministic view of history. It is a very predestined sense of history. There is moral dualism, cosmic dualism, good versus bad, now versus then. Sometimes even the good that was, the evil that is, and the good that is to come, but still good and evil. A distinct contrast. Now, like I said, these last 2, 4 and 5, real obvious in the book of Revelation. So, the key then, understanding these things, we approach this book and we say, yes, all of these things are there. There are a lot of symbolism in Revelation. The thing is, the use of these symbols as such are not unique to this book. There is a lot of loners, one way or another. And that's going to be what's important for us to understand this book. That's really the key to our secret, is John, and talk about that issue in just a second. But for now, we're always going to say John. Um, John takes expected symbols and twists them. John takes cliche, standard imagery and tropes, brings it to the point of conclusion, and twists it, changes it, misapplies it even. Um, so, how then, uh, what do you mean by that? Let me give you an example. Okay. Westerns. All right. My father loved Westerns. And even, currently Westerns are out of favor. They seem to have revivals every once in a while. They're nowhere near as popular as they were in American history at a certain point. But if you're aware of some of the Western conventions, you find them in all kinds of books and TV shows and movies. Um, we have a Western. There are two figures. They are standing on a street. The sun is high. There are townspeople looking through the windows. Maybe there's a wind blowing. Maybe the church bell is chiming. One man is dirty. His clothing is dark. He might even have a black hat on. The other clothing is cleaner, neater, and he might have on a white hat. He may have on a silver star, a shiny star because it's probably in black and white, on his chest. Just that much alone, anybody can tell you what's going on because it is a genre staple. Everybody knows what to expect. Everybody knows what's going to happen. There has been tension and build up, but honestly, objectively, there are no surprises here. You know where this is going. And that's what John is counting on in the book of Revelation. um, he uses fairly common symbolism, numerology, the whole mark of the beast, which maybe we'll talk a little bit about towards the end. Do note that colors are likely to get you in trouble because colors that were standardized in the ancient world have shifted in the modern world. White does not stand for victory. White is for purity or peace. Black is famine. Red is war. And the color, the grayish green color of rotting meat, or maybe meat that you put to unthaw in the microwave, and it got that little kind of yucky gray look on it. That color is pale, and it's death. So, believe it or not, those things are important here, especially white. Because as we're going to see as we progress, these things are the setup that John is going to use to make his point. And this leads me kind of to some of my concluding remarks for today. We have said it is apocalyptic literature. It has all of the hallmarks of apocalyptic literature without a shadow of a doubt. It is the standard of apocalyptic literature. But if you read those other, some of them, especially the ones outside the Bible, you're going to find that the author of Revelation has twisted them to the point they're not really apocalyptic literature anymore. In fact, here is one of my great theories about this book. It is not apocalyptic literature. It is a parody of apocalyptic literature. A parody takes the tropes and conventions of a genre and employs them for effect, typically comedic, but sometimes quite profound commentary. If you don't know the symbols, you'll never get that. Gulliver's Travels, for example, is now nothing more than children's literature, because the political points that Swift was making have no more meaning in our culture. But if you read it within historical context, you find that it is biting satire. People, when removed from the context of parody, miss it. Machiavelli's The Prince, when compared to some of his other major works, stands out. Seems a little weird. Until you understand that his other major work, The Discourses of Livy, is a parody. The Prince is a parody. He's not telling someone this is how you should behave. In fact, he's doing the opposite by making fun of those people. John's going to do that too. Okay. I said I was going to address the issue of authorship. I'm going to throw out this called The Author John. It says in the beginning, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show him servants what must soon take place. He made it known by sending his angel to his servant John, who testifies to everything he saw, that is the word of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. Later we find out he is on the Isle of Patmos, so we sometimes refer to him as John of Patmos. The person that wrote this book did not have anything to do with the writing of the Gospel of John or the letters of John. The style, the grammar, the content, they are nowhere near the same. Dating wise, Revelation seems pretty late. In fact, it only barely squeaked into the canon of the New Testament. I think the author is called John for the reason of using that apocalyptic literature. It is a reference to a famous figure. But it doesn't matter, because the point that is going to be made in this book is very valid. So, to end, I'm going to give you homework. I'm going to read something to you. We are going to look in this study 3 major passages, okay? The first one is in Revelation chapter 5, and I'm going to read just the first 5 verses. We're going to pick up some of the rest of the chapter later, but right now, just the first 5 verses. Okay. When I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll with writing on both sides and sealed with 7 seals. Saw a mighty angel proclaiming in a loud voice, "Who is worthy to break the seals and open the scroll?" But no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth could open the scroll or even look inside it. I wept and wept because no one was found who was worthy to open the scroll or look inside. Then one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals." Okay, one of the things you're going to have to do when you read this to get the point is not equate some imagery. Try to read it with fresh eyes. All right? He who sat on the throne is obviously God, based on the previous chapter. We have this scroll with 7 seals. 7 is the divine number, the perfect number. 7 days of creation. It is the number of God. So if we have this thing that is sealed with 7 seals, this is holy. This is important. And the angel cries out, "Who can open it?" But there is no one in heaven. In the previous chapter, we have angels and elders who are righteous people who once lived. None of them are worthy to open the scroll. No one on earth is worthy to open the scroll. Not anything under the earth is worthy to open the scroll. So all of creation. And John, our author, begins to weep. The angel has transported him to heaven to see this great thing. And you can read chapter 4 and all of the stuff there. And you get to this passage, and he's expecting to see something great. That this scroll is what he is here to record, but nobody can open it. But one of the elders says, "Wait, it's okay. The Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and the 7 seals." Okay? Who is this person that is worthy? Yes, we know it's Jesus. That's not the point. He is described as the Lion of Judah, the powerful, royal, divine, kingly animal. The Root of David. He is the strength of David. David, the warrior king. David, who slew his tens of thousands. David, who brought down the giant. Fill this moment with the expectation of who is about to walk through the door. Okay, let's go back to our Western example. The beginning of the movie, we see a saloon. It is a rowdy place. There are people fighting. Somebody gets a bottle broken over their head. There's a guy over there playing this out of tune tinny piano. The sun's bright, shining through the doors. There's those swinging bar doors. A shadow appears. Steps through the doors, and you can hear nothing but the jingling of his spurs as he takes a step, his boots on the wood, and the gentle flapping of the doors. We know this is the guy. He is either going to be the toughest, most desperate desperado in all the West, or he is going to be the quickest draw heroic gunslinger we've ever seen. Feel that expectation in this passage. Read just those 5 verses for yourself. Do not read any further. Do not think about what you already know about the book of Revelation. But based only on those 5 verses, who do you expect to show up on stage? What is this figure like? What are they wearing? What are they doing? Where do they come from? And next time we'll talk about who really does show up and how that is proof of my point. So, do your homework. If you've got questions, send them to me. We are also going to look a bit at chapter 12 and chapter 19 in the course of this study. And then we'll spend a little bit of time putting it all together. If you've noticed, I've been flipping pages a bit. That's because I did kind of write this out as an article once upon a time. I'm going to wait until we have finished this presentation, and then I'll put it as a download from the church website. Okay? So, all the answers of Revelation, all the secrets revealed, the truth is made known, no longer hidden, the secret of the ages. Next week. Until then, may God bless you.